Hello and welcome to Beyond the Hill, everyone's favourite podcast where we speak to some extraordinary people who have left us here at Hurtwood House to go on to excel in the real world. My name is James Gaffney and what a show we have lined up for you today. My guests have starred in more theatre shows than you've had hot dinners, performing in everything from West End theatres to the iconic National, and even is currently starring in A Courtroom. She's also been in some of your favourite TV shows. We are so pleased to have her back on the hill. Please welcome actress and Hurtwood alumni, Katie Buchholz, everyone! Woo! Katie, yes, clap yourself. You've got to clap yourself. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
So you were here 2012 to 2014.
Yes.
Not the first time you've been back since? Or?
I came back in the summer.
Right, okay.
And I came back to watch a couple of shows just after I left.
Okay.
And then last summer was the most recent time.
Is it weird being back?
It is, but it's weird in the sense that, like, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
So I come back and it's just as if I've been here 5 minutes ago, and I quite like it because I find it quite sad when you leave a school that you love and everything's different, whereas everything's the same. Like the black box is still the same, you know, all the classrooms are pretty much still the same,
and
know?
All the people are the same, like you meet
ex-teachers
all the
teachers,
as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you've never left, really.
Exactly.
We're going to go into your time at Hurtwood and what you're doing since throughout this, but I want to start with some quotes, if I may, because I love a quote.
Perfect.
And they're from your school report.
Oh my God.
I know, I've been given access to the Hurtwood archive. 2 quotes about your time at school. Read, quite simply the best of the best, and no one has ever had more of a positive influence on Hurtwood House. Oh. Don't cry this early on. But you clearly meant a lot to the school, and even seeing you speak and see, Doug and Al and Guy, and being back here. What did the school mean to you in your time here? Do you look back at it with fond memories?
I mean, I can't actually describe how positive it was for me in every sense. Like, I remember my mum saying, I found this school and I think you'll really love it. And from the day I came and visited it, I was hooked. But it went way beyond my expectations. And in terms of what they prepare you for in the industry, the confidence they give you, but most importantly, I think it's the passion that they instill in you. Whatever you go on to do, I was so inspired. I fell so much more in love with performing from my experience here that I sort of hold it to everything. Like, what those teachers give you is like a lifelong gift of just inspiration and passion. And I still now, like prepping for auditions or prepping for roles, I still have things in my head that I learned from acting company, or like stagecraft that I learned from Doug doing the musicals here. So yeah, I can't even express how positive my time was.
And because it's 2 years, it's kind of like a crash course, isn't it? You've
got
to learn all your skills in 2 years.
Yeah.
But you're still using them today, which is amazing.
Yeah, and also you go to drama school. Like, I went straight to drama school, and they said at drama school, this is going to be such a shock to the system. It's going to be so much hard work. You're going to be busier than you've ever been. And when I was going through the busiest time, I was like, it's sort of just the busiest term at Hurtwood.
Right.
Like, it really prepares you for the industry in that way, because you're doing exams and then you're doing the concert and you're rehearsing for this play and all that stuff. So it's great training for when you go into it after.
And you're just kind of balancing life, aren't you? Because you're at that age where you're meeting people as well. I know you boarded as well at Peaslake, I think it was. So we're going to talk about that as well. So it's all happening at once, which is kind of what happens in real life as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned your mum then.
Yes.
Kind of was her idea for Hurtwood. How did it all come about then?
So we went and saw a show, and there was a programme and there was a school on the back. And when she went back, because she was sort of knew that I was like so compelled to do acting, but she said, I want you to do acting, but I want it to be a place where you can get good results and, get your exams. I don't want to just go somewhere and sort of all the grades just go out the window. So she looked into the school and she found it and she thought, oh my God, this looks amazing. So then we went and looked round it, and when she looked round it, she was like, oh no, because she could just see my eyes like pop out, being like, this is like dream school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have her to thank for it, because she was the one that found it, and she knew that it was time for change, and I wanted a completely different, schooling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Were you quite academic as well then?
I wouldn't say academic.
I'm not going to ask to share your results.
Well, I mean, I actually loved it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was great at doing the homework and doing all the stuff to get in on time, but I loved English and I loved psychology. And again, they kind of fueled the work that you do in drama school anyway. I think it was a bit of a nightmare trying to get me to do homework and hand it in on time. But I loved the lessons. I just probably wasn't your absolute best
You were a trier.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were here 2012 to 2014,
Yeah.
which, you know, it's 2024, it's coming up to 2024 now. That's
Yeah.
10 years ago.
I know, it's crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah.
And you really did throw yourself into Hurtwood life. We're going to go through bits and bobs in a second. Do you have a highlight? Just a singular highlight? Maybe it's Freshers. Maybe it's a show. Maybe it's, I don't know.
Do you know what I think my highlight is? I think when we did the musicals here, my favourite day of each year was when you do the sits probe.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's everyone's.
Love
It's
sits
everyone's.
probe.
Because it's so professional
Yeah.
and you've been rehearsing. And there's such a bond between everyone by that point and everyone's fallen in love with the show. Then you hear the music with a live band and it's just incredible. And the atmosphere that everyone has in that room when you hear the music for the first time. I think that's it. And I suppose I remember doing one performance of Jesus Christ Superstar and all Peaslake were in. So it was all my mates that were in. And that was an amazing show as well. I remember that really well.
And with the Sits Probe, you're absolutely right. Because as we're rehearsing, you're thinking, this is a professional show.
Yeah.
But that's the moment when you go, oh my goodness, this is like a West End show. I mean,
Yeah.
you've performed in the West End.
Yeah.
How does it compare?
It's insane. It's the standard is like being in a West End show, and also the sort of discipline is exactly the same required in this show as it is in a West End show. You know, they're not kind to you being young and kids. The notes that you get and the discipline that is required in these shows is super similar to being in a West End show.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
That you're given that opportunity at a young age. Let's talk academically really quickly. You studied theatre, psychology and English?
Yes.
Good work, production team.
Yeah.
And you took AS dance as well.
Yes.
Those subjects to me, you know, theatre, obviously, theatre, psychology and English, that around the acting as well? Because they feel like you can learn from English, for example, in shows you're doing. Was that a conscious decision?
Not really. I think I chose the subjects for the grades. For coming off GCSEs, I found GCSEs so hard because I just had to sit through subjects that I just found so boring.
Yeah.
Like physics to me was like torture because it just wasn't what I was interested in. So I tried to pick subjects that I was quite interested in, and then as a result they ended up feeding in and helping out with all the acting stuff, like all the stuff you learn about how your childhood affects who you are as a person in psychology, and examining Shakespeare and examining texts in English. It all fed in, which was super helpful.
I suppose when you get given a role, you kind of do that psychology thing. You look into the background of the character, don't you?
Yes,
so
exactly.
That works. Another part of Hurtwood life is, of course, it's a boarding school.
Yeah.
Were you Peaslake the whole time? Or?
No. So I had the scholarship where I stayed with Cosmo and Tina until a room came free, because some people don't stay for the entirety of the year, so I take their room. So the first house I was in was in Ewhurst, and I moved in after Christmas. And I remember my first day so well because Sam, who's still one of my best friends now, I opened the door and someone said, "Guys, welcome Katie, she's moving into Ewhurst." And Sam was riding Laura like a pony and whipping her with his ruler, being like, "We have to meet the new guest." And he rode up and was like, "Welcome to Ewhurst." And I was I think this is so Hurtwood.
So Hurtwood.
Yeah,
and that was like a baptism of fire then?
Yeah, exactly.
Into boarding life. So Ewhurst, and that time that you spent with Tina and Cosmo, you came quite friendly with their daughter because you stayed in the pool house. Have I made this up? Yeah.
Yes.
And what a lovely thing as well to have alongside your school
and amazing
life.
to see also her career progression and what she's up to, which is amazing because she came to Hurtwood just after I left. So to see and follow what she's doing is amazing as well.
And this is what's been so interesting about doing this podcast, is all the different people we speak to. Everyone does well.
Yeah.
This is not just like a one-off.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about the school as well, doesn't it? So you boarded at Peaslake. Is that the first time you lived away from home?
Yeah, first time.
Which is kind of a big thing as well. And if you're on the road doing shows, I don't know. Did
Yeah.
you learn life experiences with the boarding part of life as well?
Yeah, it was so funny. I remember the first time my mum dropped me off, she was like, I think we're going to have waterworks because she's never been away from home. My sister came, they unpacked everything. And they said, and my mum said to my sister, it's going to be quite hard because she's never been away from home. honestly, within 5 minutes, she was like, Katie, I'm saying goodbye. I was like, bye. And just was already just like caught up by the whirlwind of it. And I just loved it. I would look forward, when it came to the end of the summer holidays, I would look forward to going back and like living with friends, you know.
And I felt when I did it that you mature as well.
Yeah.
Which is part of this process.
Massively.
You're right though with mums. Like my mum said, James, make sure you call me every night. I went, yeah, sure. I don't think I called her once. I don't remember doing it. Let's move on to the theatre, which is where we're sat today. Weird being back on this stage.
It's just such good memories.
Bring the memories right back. Because
Yeah.
you got involved in a fair amount of productions. You were also part of acting company, as you mentioned. You were a plant in Little Shop, which doesn't sound a lot, but in Little Shop of Horrors, huge role. That was your first year you did that.
Yes, yeah.
And then Jesus Christ Superstar in the second. In fact, look at that. We've got your programme. Have a
Oh
flick
my
through,
God,
find your name.
Amazing.
Another throwback. Take that with you if you want. What is so special about Hurtwood Productions? You mentioned it, kind of the similarities to EastEnders.
Yeah.
But was that the first time you really knew this is what I want to do?
Yeah, massively. I mean, because I was sort of like, I don't know whether I want to do musicals or straight acting, but I knew I had quite a low voice and I loved doing acting, whatever. But it made it harder because the musicals were so fun here, but then I would go and do a Chekhov at acting company and that was amazing. But I think what makes Hurtwood so particular is like, there's such a flair. It's not just disciplined and it's not just, you know, they play it by the rules. They also are completely outside of the box. Like, Little Shop of Horrors had such crazy sense of humour and it's got such a unique flair that I think a lot of schools just don't quite capture. You know, you have like Andy's genius directing that, you know, he just thinks so outside of the box. And you see him rehearse and you go, what the hell? And when it comes together, you're like, that's genius. That's
Many
genius.
moments you're watching it going, well, that's not going to work. But it does.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
what's amazing about it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. Stick those headphones on that I've left by your chair. We'll have a little throwback to some... This is great. I really hope the soundboard works. Stick those on. Have a little listen.
Okay.
Because this is you in a couple of Hurtwood productions. This first one here...
Feed me on that love.
Is this bringing it back? What a voice as well. And was it weird being stuck inside a plant? Or how did you do it? Were you in the plant?
I wasn't in the plant. I was actually like in a box up there.
You are joking.
So we like created this little box, and I had a window where I'd like look into, so I could watch the puppeteers who were in the plant.
Right.
And I watched through the window, and then we'd sort of try and match up. So I was just in this tiny little box for the entirety of the show, and then just right at the end, I'd come out and do a bow.
Oh, you got a bow, good.
Yes, I got a bow. But I think loads of people were like, who is that? So I had to wear this T-shirt, which in capital letters said The Voice, which just so people knew who it was, because we were like, who's this random girl that's just come out of a box?
I'm so glad she's here. Who is she? Yeah. But, and again, an amazing role for your first year, because traditionally it's like the first year, people are in the ensemble, but you got a lead in that first year as well.
I think also because they were like, how are we going to find someone with a male baritone voice? And I think my voice was so low that they were like, I think she's the only one with the range to do it, just because it was just so low.
Yeah.
And I think, I listened to a lot of like jazzy soul music, so it was like really lucky because it's written in quite a soulful way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you say you like the baritone. Stick your headphones back on, because then year 2 comes along. They are fiddly headphones, actually, to be fair. Year 2 comes along, and you're in a bath singing this.
Raising from the dead. And now I understand your God.
This is a bop as well, by the way, when it gets going.
Such a great song.
So, you are the Christ, yes, the great Jesus Christ. Prove to me that you're divine. Change my water into wine. That's all
Again,
you
is that
need to do.
weird listening to that
I don't
back?
know.
It's so weird. Because in that show, we had that number, and I had a little thing to do up there, but it was the most amount of fun. The number probably lasts for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just 5 minutes of the most heightened, eccentric, weird and wonderful fun. I would just like look forward to it, because I think you gain a bit of confidence in the next show. So I, like 10 minutes before, I'd just be like gunning to go on. And it was because I remember before the Christmas holidays, we got the casting, and I went to Doug and I said, just so I can have a think about it, what direction are we going?
Sure.
And he just said, think hedonist and we're thinking a bathtub.
Okay.
And I was like, interesting, okay. But it was genius, and it was Al that came up with the idea. He was like, we should just do it as she's in the bath and do the whole song as if she's in the bath, which is genius.
And everyone kind of moving around you.
Yeah, and like dances around. It was just great.
Well, Katie, you might not know this, but it's something we share. Singing in a bath. There are only 2 people in the history of Hurtwood House.
Amazing.
Which is us in a bath. And it's an elite club I think we should be proud of.
Yeah.
It's not a WhatsApp group.
No one else is allowed in. It's just ours.
And it's also a weird thing though, because I don't know about you, but they actually made me kind of be naked. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. They just put a towel across when I stood up.
So Hurtwood. So Hurtwood.
So Jesus Christ Superstar second year, little shop in the first year. What did you do with acting company? Did you go into Cranley?
We went into Cranley Arts Centre and we did the Cherry Orchard, which is a Chekhov. And that was the seed of my like lifelong love for Chekhov. When I first read it, I remember being like, I don't get it at all. And I was playing Ranievska, who is this like 40-year-old, 50-year-old woman who's losing her property in Russia. And I just was reading it. I have no idea. And the way...
This is different from a bath.
Yeah, exactly. Completely different world. And I remember thinking, I don't get this at all. And we were doing rehearsing, and I was like, okay, I kind of get it. And the way Ezra directed us was as soon as we had an audience, we all were like, oh, it's funny. But it's funny, the more you play it, the more serious you play it, the funnier it is for the audience. And then I completely fell in love with Chekhov, and I've always wanted to sort of do Chekhov throughout my career because I just love it from that first experience of doing it.
And audiences are so important with theatre.
Yeah,
I know you've done a little bit of TV as well, and I always think with live audiences, you bounce off them, don't you? Use
massively.
Them. And what you're saying there is with the acting company show, it kind of changed the whole meaning of the show.
It created part of the show, yeah.
Do you have a standout show then, which it's hard to ask you to pick one, of what you've done at Hurtwood? Even, I don't know, in theatre, did you do a devised piece or a scripted pieces?
Do you know, the devised piece was actually the worst one.
Oh, was it?
Because I was doing it with Max and Baldry, and we just had way too many ideas and way too little time. And I just remember we would try and do loads of things all at once, and the drama teachers were like, what on earth is this? It was just like each week we'd change it to a different show, so it was a bit chaos, and we had to have like drama teachers come in and be like, right, okay, one idea guys, but it was great fun. But what's my favourite show? It's so hard to tell.
Because they're all different,
they're
aren't they?
They're so completely different. I mean, I remember being in the rehearsals for the Cherry Orchard and just finding the work of it so satisfying, but the thrill of doing the bath number in Jesus Christ Superstar was incredible.
It's the bath again.
But I love the music of Little Shop, so I have no idea, to be honest.
I won't push you then. They're all a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of tips and tricks that you mentioned it at the start there? Maybe the rigorous rehearsal schedule.
Yeah.
The production values of shows like this, doing a show every single night that you've learnt here that you still use today. Because being in a show, what you're doing, 8 shows in 6 days kind of thing?
Yeah.
And did you have a grounding from that here?
Yeah, I remember the one thing that I remember Ezra teaching me, which I've always kept. I remember there was a really tricky scene where she sort of she breaks down over her past. And I would say to Ezra, like, I'm 18 and I'm playing someone that's 40 years old crying about her youth that's left her, and I don't know how to do it. And he said, you need to go away. And I think she's lost a child, so she has this really awful moment where she remembers that. And he said, you need to go away and in your imagination spend time with that child and spend time in her life imaginatively, so that when you talk about it, it's there and you don't need to pretend, you don't need to act it. If you've gone there imaginatively, we'll be able to see it. And he was completely right. And that's something I use in every part, especially when they talk about past, really beefing it out imaginatively. Because if you see it, then the audience see it. And that's something he taught me.
Write that down, that's quite good actually. Might jot that down and use it myself. You left Hurtwood House and you went on to drama school straight away. You went to RADA.
Yes.
You also had an offer, was it Guildhall?
I had an offer at Guildhall, yeah.
As well, but you chose RADA.
Yeah.
I mean, stupid question. Why RADA? The name of it, I
suppose.
Yeah,
I mean, it was actually a really difficult decision because I loved Guildhall and I loved the vibe of it, and it was such an electric atmosphere. But I think what made me choose RADA was there was a day in the final round. You basically have a day in the life of RADA, and you do scene study and you do movement, you do voice, and there was just this warmth, and it felt right. And I just remember loving the lessons there and loving what the teachers were giving us, even though they might not have been training us, all the stuff that they were giving us in that one day. Yeah. I think I came away and I thought, I think if I get in, that's my place. And luckily I got in. Yeah.
And it's like the feeling you had that first day at Hurtwood, that you just felt this was the right place.
This is the right place. And I actually remember, because I got in when I was at Hurtwood, and I was having A-level drama, and I was over in those places by the canteen.
Yes, yeah.
And I said to Natalie, I loved my lessons with Natalie, and she said, I said, I'm waiting for a call from RADA, so if I get one, can I take it? And she was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't think I was going to get in. I really, really didn't. And my phone went off, and everyone was like,
oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. And Natalie was like, go and take it. And I ran out, and there were already people having lunch, and it was a summer afternoon, there were people having lunch. And I was on the phone, and someone ran out from the drama class, and they said, she's waiting, that's RADA on the phone. And Ed Kemp told me I got in. And obviously my reaction, everyone knew that I got in. So everyone from the canteen got up and then surrounded me and started picking me up. So then I lost the phone to the director of RADA. Yes. And everyone was like, it was like, that moment was amazing.
Is that like a career highlight when you think back to that
massively,
phone call?
Massively. In the way that I was in a drama lesson, so Natalie came out and hugged me, and it was, because I put a lot on getting into drama school and what I learnt here. So it was nice to share that with the teachers here as well. Absolutely.
It's like a thank you, really, to all the stuff Hurtwood had done, to share it with them as well. About your time there, was 3 years, 4 years? How long?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
What was kind of a standout thing you learnt there? I mean, I'm intrigued to what happens at RADA, I suppose is my question.
Oh, so many things. So many things. I think RADA and Hurtwood are similar in the sense of discipline,
right,
and not just resting on your laurels and leaving it to chance. It's all about the work and preparation and understanding that person that you're playing as much as you possibly can. And no matter how many performances that you do, just keep digging and mining. I think that's what Hurtwood and both RADA have in common, is there's nothing, they take any sense of arrogance out of you. It's all about the work, and if you don't do the work, you can't expect a good performance.
It's that work ethic that you're going to use in your career. You've got to want it every single day and keep on going for it.
Yeah.
Let's touch quickly on TV, because you've done a fair little bit as well. Midsummer Murders and Father Brown, I saw you had roles in. I checked out your IMDb. And you played briefly Jodie Kelly in EastEnders.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but if you're watching at home, you turn the BBC on, you hear the duff-duffs.
Yeah.
That's a pinch me moment, is it not?
Yeah. Well, I really wanted my line to be a duff-duff moment.
Everyone wants a duff-duff.
And I didn't get the duff-duff, and I was so annoyed, because I had one of my final line was, that's not my boyfriend, that's my dad. And it was like a huge thing, because they thought I was having an affair, but really I was the secret family of Mel's new boyfriend or whatever. But that was great, and actually really creative. I thought it might be quite do the scene, move on, but the director was really creative and really patient with me, because I hadn't had that much filming training.
Sure.
So a lot of the vocab around it, I didn't really know what was going on, and hitting your mark for the lights and all that, and the director was really generous with me in helping.
I can't believe that's not my boyfriend, that's my dad. It's not a duff-duff line.
I mean,
it screams duff-duff.
Exactly.
I was trying to work this out. Do you know how many duff-duffs are in how many?
This was actually in a pub quiz, and I can't remember the answer.
It's a good one. It's 9. Duff, duff.
I was about to say 8.
Duff, 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 duff.
Oh.
There you go. Just for all you fact fans out there. The duff-duffs. You mentioned it a little bit there, because you hadn't done a lot of training. What was the main difference? The obvious. Okay, there's no live audience.
Yeah.
But do you have to keep the acting a bit smaller than you would in theatre?
I think that's actually the misconception.
Oh, is it?
In terms of volume, you have to keep it down. And in terms of movements, if the camera's right there, you can't move as much. But in terms of your performance, I think it's just about being truthful. And in terms of, if you're truthful, the way you express something, if you feel it, keeping that alive. I think that was my misconception, is you kind of have to, when you're on film. And in terms of volume and movement, maybe that's so, but I think in terms of acting, it's actually really similar. It's just keeping truthful to the moment and listening and doing all the stuff that you prepare for in theatre.
The core of being your character is still the same.
Yeah.
Last question on EastEnders, because it's on the card, so you kind of have to read it on the cards. You weren't killed off
I wasn't killed off.
Could Jodie return? Could we get an exclusive?
They told me it was going to be 6 episodes.
Right.
And then right before I started filming, they were like, oh, we've now cut it. It's going to be 2.
Right.
And I was like, no. But I remember my family friends writing in saying, could we see the return of Jodie Kelly? But the problem is Mel's dead now. Oh, so Jodie's got no line to come back in.
I'll tell you what, can we start a petition? A Beyond the Hill petition, Jodie Kelly returning to Albert Square. And a duff duff. Let's move on to theatre, because Katie, your theatre CV is like mind-blowing, especially as it's only been 10 years really since you left Hurtwood. Yeah. I'll go through a few credits. You've performed at the National Theatre. A couple of things there. The Seagull, was it the National?
Well, the Seagull, it was a national. They had a part of the production, but the Seagull was actually West End.
Right.
But it got put on because it got filmed. It was part of the National Live season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you in Mary Poppins as well?
I was in Mary Poppins before I came to Hurtwood. So I was in Mary Poppins as a kid when I was 12.
So, in fairness, going back to what you said about coming to Hurtwood, it was always acting then, even from a young age.
It was always acting, yeah.
I love Mary Poppins. Other West End venues such as the Garrick, you've even performed at the Old Vic as well, I saw. These are iconic stages. And so is Hurtwood House, and you've performed here a few times as well. Do you get nervous? I mean, even in the show you're in at the moment.
Oh, massively.
Yeah,
I think actually you get more nervous as you get older because you're more aware. You've seen more stuff to go wrong.
Yeah.
So when you're a kid, when I did it when I was 12, I just didn't really know what I was doing. I knew the lines. They sort of like shoo you on stage and you do it and then you get used to it. But because you're so young, you don't know what goes on. So I think as you get older, I actually get more nervous opening a show. And it's just about trying to make friends with those nerves. But yeah, I think it gets more terrifying.
I was going to say, how do you deal with them? Is there a conscious effort that you need to switch that nerves off, or is it just once you got that first line out the way, you're okay?
I think it's once I'm on stage, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's the 10 or 20 minutes before you go on stage for the first night and you're like,
oh God,
why do I do this to myself? Why do I do this? I could be in an office, behind a comedy, and then as soon as you're on stage, it's amazing and it feels amazing. And I think the great thing about nerves that I've learned, and actually Andy talks about a lot, is it propels you and it gives you a type of focus that you don't have when you're not nervous, which can be used. It's really useful.
It's a good thing because it makes sure you're in the zone.
Yeah.
So you've done all these incredible shows in incredible theatres. Do you have a favourite piece? Not including Witness that you're in a moment. We'll go to talk about that.
Okay.
But of what you've done in the past, is there a standout piece of theatre you've done since you've left Hurtwood? Or Mary Poppins when you were a child?
Oh, it's so hard. I mean, they're all different. I mean, you love things for different reasons. Like, I loved The Seagull because I love Chekhov and I loved the part that I was playing and the company and watching people like Indira Varma, who's just unbelievable. So learning from her, and that script was incredible. But Leaves of Glass at the Park was gorgeous. I loved the type of direction because it was a direction that I'd never had before. There was no blocking. And he really pushed you to try something new every night. So it's really hard.
Once again, they're all great.
They're all great. I think the part I'm playing at the moment
is
one of my favourite parts because it's so layered and complex and it's such a challenge.
And I've seen the show. We'll go and talk about it because it is fabulous. Pinch yourself moments, right? You had one when RADA called and everyone was here at Hurtwood. Have you had many more of those? Maybe you get that every single night when you're on stage.
I think
you're just standing there going, oh my goodness, look where I'm performing.
I think one of the pinch me moments, so I understudied in Lemons, which was a two-hander.
Yeah.
And I was understudying Jenna Coleman and she was quite unwell, unfortunately, throughout the run. So I went on quite a lot, but I remember the first time I got called, I didn't have time to think about it, which was great.
Yeah.
I literally came to the theatre, ran it through with Aidan, and then got into costume, warmed up, went on stage. And I think you're so in it. And then when the final line was said, the lights went down, it came up. And I remember looking at the audience and being like, oh my God, oh my God.
What have I just done?
That's amazing. And I remember that being a real moment of like bowing. And then I was meant to bow again and I just completely forgot. I was just like looking at the theatre and it being filled with that audience, and that was quite a pinch me moment.
And understudying, it's not easy to say, is it? Is something I found really interesting, because you've got to learn the part as if you're going to do it every single night.
Yeah.
And how does that call come about? Are you at home? Do you get the call? Is it when you get to the theatre?
Yeah. So the stage manager calls you, and you know, because the stage manager pops up on your phone at like 2 p.m. and you're like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
And you're just in that moment, you're like, thank God I learnt those lines. Because I think with understudying, no one ever really thinks that the understudy is going to be used. So you're always battling against not having enough time, not having the space for enough time. So it's kind of up to you to do the work. But yeah, the stage manager calls you and then your stomach completely drops and you're like, I think I know what this call is going to be. Yeah.
Which is a good call.
But
also nerve-wracking.
Terrifying.
And you're saying it's all kind of on you, isn't it? Because the schedule, the rehearsal schedule doesn't give you that time. That's the work ethic you've got at RADA and Hurtwood. Is coming to play.
Exactly.
Let's talk about currently what you're doing. Witness for the Prosecution at the County Hall in London. I saw it a few years ago. And everyone you've spoken to, it's an amazing show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
For people who haven't seen it, and I get it's going to be hard to answer this because of the kind of play it is.
Yeah.
Give us a brief overview of the show and your involvement in the character, as much as you can without giving it away.
Sure. Okay. That's the big challenge.
That is.
I've done promo for it and I just have people in the back being like,
no, cut.
And I'm like,
yeah.
So the play is about a man called Leonard Vole has been accused of murder of Emily Jane French, who's this old woman that he befriended. And we follow him from being arrested all through the court case of this mystery of who's done it. And I play the wife of Leonard Vole.
Okay, right.
And she is completely unpredictable in the way she reacts throughout the course of the play.
And that's all you can say?
I think that's all I can say.
That's all you're getting, folks.
Yeah.
That's all you've got. But is it a really fun role to play?
It's such a fun role. And it's such a... I've spoken about this before, but Agatha Christie, it was an amazing woman herself. Like, what she achieved as a woman is incredible. But what she does, the women that she writes for the 50s, it's as if she's been in this time now and written a woman. Like, she creates incredible female characters, and they're always incredibly, like, ferociously intelligent and mischievous and disobedient. So she creates really fun women.
And lots of multi-layers, which, as an actor...
So layered.
Right?
And it's one of those things that I'm now on performance, I think, like 100 out of nearly 200 or something like that, or 90 or something. And even now, I go on stage and I go, oh, wow, I now notice why she said that, you know. So
Even now.
And
it's my next question, actually, is how do you keep these shows fresh? Because you're on, 100 performances, sometimes 2 a day.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's such a good question, because actually that's what I was most nervous about, because the longest I've done was like 3 months on and off, and 1 month on the whole time. So I've never really done a 6-month long run. I think it's about never sitting back and always saying to yourself, okay, what else can I find? How can I improve it? Now I've got that scene, so now what else can I find? And not creating a finished product that you just repeat.
Yeah.
It being alive and it constantly being, I set myself goals of like, right, that scene still isn't right, so I'm going to keep digging until I really find that. And once you've found it, you go, okay, what else can it be? Rather than it in rehearsals just being, yep, that's the product, go out and repeat that 200 times.
Sure.
You know?
And because that's, I think, the main difference between live theatre and TV and film. One take, it's recorded, then you can watch it as many times as you want. But that's what's special about theatre,
exactly.
isn't it? And I'd imagine playing in a show is that's what that's
massively
fun.
And sometimes, like, the first scene for this one, I remember being like, and then a month in, it clicked in, and I was like, oh, I get it now, and that's it. So it took me a month to get there. So that's the privilege of theatre, because you get the chance to keep
always
doing
evolving.
it. Yeah.
Always evolving. Katie, nearly time to wrap up. What's next for you?
In terms of auditions, I've got a couple coming up, but actually it's because it's quite a long contract, not that many stuff is being auditioned for spring yet. That will probably come in January. So at the moment, I don't know, but hopefully something else.
And that must be hard as well when you're doing a show in the evening, but you've got to audition a different script in the day. What a nightmare.
Yeah, and you sort of get to the theatre and you've sort of got to readjust and go, right, now I've got to put this cap on and think about this. But it's actually, sometimes it's quite good. It sort of helps the show when you've been distracted by something else. You come back to the show and it sort of has something new about it.
Yeah. I don't know how you do it. It's incredible. Final word then on advice to a Hurtwood student. Maybe someone's listening, watching at home, or maybe someone's here and they want to get into acting. Have you got a bit of advice that they could have a career like you in 10 years' time? When I'm speaking to the next person, what bit of advice would you give them?
I think what I'd give them is, I think the performance industry especially, it's really hard and it's really tough and it takes time to carve out the career that you want to carve out. And there can be a lot of negativity because there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of comparison to other people. And I think it's your job to find out your way of how you keep it fun and keep your passion. Like, I left Hurtwood so passionate and I left RADA so passionate. And I think if you listen to all the negative stuff of the industry, you can lose that initial love for it of why you took it up in the first place. So everything aside, do what you need to do to just keep loving it and enjoying yourself, because when you're enjoying it, you're doing a good job and people love to watch someone enjoy it. So that, and then my other advice is if you're going for training, if it's musical theatre or straight acting or dance, whatever, just pick pieces that you really love because you do them so many times over. And I think no matter how scary it is, if you have monologues or songs that you really love, no matter how scared you are, there's that bit of excitement to perform them and share it with people. So put in the work to find something that you really love and enjoy doing.
So it's about that passion.
Yeah.
What an amazing way to end it. Listen, before you go, there's obviously the programme there. There's a photo book of Little Shop of Horrors, but you're not really in it a lot because you're the plant. But we thought we'd give you this one, which is Jesus Christ Superstar. Please take that home with you. Because your actual face is in that one quite a lot.
Oh, that's so
Thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it. Give it up for Katie, everybody.
Oh, I've loved it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We really hope you're enjoying Beyond the Hill. To catch up on every other episode, head to YouTube and Spotify right now, or you can follow all of our social media channels to never miss a moment here on Beyond the Hill.